Your current Milligan Vein temperature is 86 degrees. MilliganVein.com.
We tend not to think about right now, but right now in front of us is victory over cancer. Right now, cancer research funded by the V Foundation is leading to better treatments and saving lives. When you give to the V Foundation, 100% of your donation goes directly to game-changing cancer research. Victory over cancer is there for the taking by you. Donate at V.org, because today's cancer research is tomorrow's victory.
Don't give up. Don't ever give up.
ESPN Cleveland 101.3 is powered by Duracell. You're listening to Paul Feinbaum on ESPN Cleveland 101.3. The Drive is coming up. The ESPN Cleveland 101.3 lineup is supplied by Wholesale Supply Group. WholesaleSupply.us. For a quarter of a century, Mix 104.1 has been taking you out to the ball game.
Swanson to first. The Braves are world champions.
Since 2000, Mix 104.1 has been the home of the Atlanta Braves, and we're celebrating by giving away tickets to Atlanta Braves games all summer long. Listen for your chance to call or text to qualify. You can also register at the Mix socials on Facebook and Instagram. Braves 25 is presented by Cleveland Ford. Honest people, honest deals.
Listen up, Cleveland. The wait is over. Josh Porter here with Optimize You, the region's #1 hormone replacement clinic. We specialize in both men and women's hormones and are so excited to finally be here in Cleveland, ready to serve you. Find us online at OptimizeYouCenters.com. That's OptimizeYouCenters.com.
Hey, Andy Morris here. Join me along with my co-host on The Drive, presented by Hardee's, weekdays at 5 p.m. on ESPN Cleveland 101.3, Cleveland and Bradley County's local sports show, weekdays at 5 on ESPN Cleveland 101.3.
From the Kia of Cleveland Studios, this is ESPN Cleveland 101.3, WCLE HD2 Cleveland, W267BI Cleveland, ESPN Cleveland 101.3.
The top of the hour is presented by Best Buy Metals, making the top of your house the best it can be. Visit BestBuyMetalRoofing.com.
It's time for The Drive on ESPN Cleveland 101.3, presented by Hardee's. We will bring you nonstop sports news from the national and local scene and everything in between. So buckle up and join in on the conversation. It's The Drive.
Don't take no style. Got a thirst for killing.
Listening to The Drive here on ESPN Cleveland. Hope everyone out there is having a great Wednesday. I'm Jim Gum along with Jacob. And our #1 guy is out today. He had a very, very busy day. Just was not able to come in. But I'll tell you what, we're excited. We got a big show in store today. We've got Scott Howard, the voice of the Georgia Bulldogs. We're going to talk with him in about 15 minutes. But we had a really big night last night down in Chattanooga. So, Jacob, tell us what happened there last night.
Listen, Andy's not here because he is too scared to come on air and say Steve actually threw a dart. Now, given, I will say it was a ball. It was high in the zone.
Yeah.
It was high in the zone. But Andy was doubting him a little bit. I was too. I said, "Do you think he bounces it?" That was me just trying to plant a seed in Steve's head as he was driving up to the Lookout Stadium. But Andy was doubting him, and I think Andy just couldn't bear coming on air to admit that Steve's got some juice left in that arm.
Well, we got into Steve's head a little bit. We said, "Listen, Steve, you don't have to throw a strike, but the one thing you can't do is throw a worm burner or bounce it up there 2 or 3 hops and then the catcher has to field it like that." I said, if you're going to miss high. No one's going to boo you. I'm telling you, I've been to several ball games where a first pitch was bounced, and they're booed. It doesn't matter who it is. They're booed because they wimped out. And the last thing Steve wanted to do was to throw it short. So he gave it the old college try.
Yeah, he absolutely darted in there. So, congrats, Steve. From you didn't have to go through what 50 Cent and some of those other dudes, Taylor Lewan and those guys who just went out there and absolutely were embarrassed for the world to see. Because let's be honest, if Austin got a hold of video of Steve bouncing it or chucking it over somebody's head, That was getting aired all
Oh, it
over.
would be on billboards by now.
Yeah, I think I heard y'all talking about billboards right now. I think I would have tried to find one of our sponsors for the show to sponsor that video to go up on the one in the middle of town.
Oh, and we would have definitely sent the video to 9, 3, and 12.
Yeah, for
There's no
sure.
question about that. So I'm slow sports day. Hey, let's throw the ball bouncing into the catcher's mitt at the WCLA night.
So history was made last night with Steve, doing that. But history in baseball was also made last night. Give us a little insight on what happened.
Unbelievable. We had, and listen, you'd had to stay up pretty darn late to see all this stuff happen. But as I'm driving home from the Lookouts game, I'm trying to listen to the Braves, and they're playing the A's in Sacramento. Lawrence Butler became the first A's player since 1943 to hit a leadoff home run, inside the park home run, I should say, on the first pitch of the game. And then the A's hit 2 more in the first inning. Man, what a way to start that series. They're down 5-0 before you know it.
That was they gave us a high five like really quick. It was rough. It was inside the park home run, hit by pitch to the hand where he had to be not carried off. That's dramatic. He had to be escorted off.
And
Home run.
he's an all-star, by the way.
Yeah, home run, walk, home run. It was a rough.
It was 5-0 after the first inning, and then it was 9-0 after 3 innings. The game literally was over. By the way, Lawrence Butler hit his second home run of the game in that third inning, a more conventional over-the-wall homer. But man, what a night! What a night!
So to bookend it, we had a game that started with an inside the park home run, and for the first time in MLB history on the same night, we had a game start with an inside the park and get walked off.
Yeah. So you had the catcher for the San Francisco Giants, Patrick Bailey. By the way, the fact that as a catcher, that's even more amazing. He outdid Butler. He hit a 3-run, bottom of the ninth homer to lead the Giants to a 4-3 win. You got to think about the Phillies. Oh, the Phillies, by the way, who the Braves are obviously trying to catch, which they're not making it a good effort right now. But it's 3-1 Philadelphia. There's 1 out in the ninth. They got to be feeling pretty good about their odds of winning this game. The ball doesn't go over the fence. It caroms off. With all those bricks there at the ballpark in San Francisco. So it ricocheted from Castellanos and the other outfielder. And the catcher, a walk-off inside the park home run. And he didn't even have to slide it home. He scored standing up because it ricocheted so far. So you had a first pitch inside the park home run in Sacramento, and just over the road, if you will, in San Francisco, you had a walk-off inside the park home run. Unbelievable. I mean, we talked about this just the other day about how crazy some major league stats are. There's another one right there.
Yeah. I can't remember if it was like 1943 is the last time a catcher has hit inside the park. Like stuff like that is wild to me. And then the A's haven't had one since it's been
for a long time.
It was a long time. So it's interesting. Baseball does. It gives some of the coolest stats that we don't think about. And honest to goodness, I know this is kind of a bridge. I think that's why people hate Barry Bonds so much for the juicing side of things, because baseball stats have been coveted for so long.
You're right. There's no other sport where statistics and all-time statistics are so revered as they are in Major League Baseball. Listen, there's records in every sport. College football has some great stats of the NFL, the all-time passing yards, which that's Tom Brady. But he's not revered because of that. He's revered because of the Super Bowls.
Yeah.
All sorts of stats out there. I think Jerry Rice has the all-time record for receiving yards, which that one may never be broken. But there's a lot of stats in football, but they're just not lifted up on a pedestal like baseball.
Yeah, so the catcher, it hasn't happened for a catcher since 1926, and the A's hasn't been since 1943.
So it's 99 years?
Yeah. It's been about close to it. It says the first walk off inside the park home run by a catcher in nearly 100 years, so 99 years.
I don't know if you know this, but if you look at the ballpark dimensions from the 20s and 30s compared to now, the dimensions were way deeper, much bigger outfields as far as center field and the power alleys. Now, down the lines of some of the ballparks were quite short, but the vast amount of square footage on the fields back then were much greater. So you had a lot more inside the park home runs back then because the ball would just keep rolling and rolling and rolling. Nowadays, you've got these quirky angles, and that's where you get the inside the park home runs these days because of the ball ricochets kind of awkwardly, and that's when you get them these days.
Yeah, if you look at that San Fran one, it hits off that wall and it kicks hard and it runs.
Big time.
I mean, over the head of two defenders, and now they're chasing it, and it looked like left fielders trying to come in. It was just one of those perfectly hit balls that didn't go over, but then found its way to evade every defender until that guy could get all the way around.
Do you like the fact? Listen. Every NFL field is the same dimensions. Every NBA court's the same dimensions. Every NHL ice rink is the same dimensions. The one sport where you got different dimensions is baseball. I like that. I think it's cool. You got some that are like, hey, this is geared towards power hitting left-handed guys, or you may have one that's a short porch here, or you got an overhang there. I love that.
I kind of view it as like golf courses.
Exactly.
It's different, and each one has its troubles. Like we talked about Omaha over and over and over again, how these college kids are going to be going from playing some short porch areas to there's not really a short porch in Omaha. Like everything's long. I like it. I even think baseball is a little unique because there's regulation mound sizes, but if you talk to baseball players, one of their least favorite places outside of Colorado to pitch in is in Cincinnati. Did you know that?
No, for the mound?
They say the mound is shorter. And
really?
Yeah, there's speculation that they even build their pitching roster for guys that don't take as much use of the mound.
Interesting.
So,
see, I'm a Reds fan. I've never heard that.
I was listening to a podcast that had some pictures on it, and they both simultaneously said Cincinnati.
Oh, I remember back in the 70s, Fenway Park, the Green Monster, it was marked at like 302 or something. Oh, no, excuse me, 315. And the players were like, there ain't no way it's that deep. And sure enough, they did an aerial visual, and it was like 308 or something like that. And so the players were right.
Yeah.
The players were right. Now, another thing, back in the 70s where you had the multi-purpose, the cookie cutters, Fulton County Stadium, Riverfront Stadium, Three Rivers, Bush Memorial, Veterans Stadium, the Astrodome, they all had the dimensions down the lines in the power alleys and in center field were the exact same. There was nothing like left field and right center and left center were exactly the same. Left field and right field were the same, and they all had the same exact dimensions. And a lot of people said that just didn't feel right. And of course, you had like I said, Fenway Park was always different. Tiger Stadium, Comiskey Park. You had all these quirkinesses about the older ballparks, and then when I remember when Camden Yards in Baltimore was constructed, and they built it more like a retro ballpark. And ever since Camden Yards was built, you've had all these different ballparks. They want some quirkiness added to them. Now, the one, of course, Dodger Stadium is symmetrical when it comes to like left field, left center, right center, and dead center. There's no quirkiness about Dodger Stadium, but that's one of the few, and I guess Kauffman Stadium where the Royals play. But other than those two, pretty much every ballpark has dimensions that are different from left center to right center and down the lines. I think it makes baseball that much more unique.
Yeah, I do too. And really the only one that I care about is the 17 inches, the plate. And the 60 feet 6 inches.
And
those are at the end of the day, those are the only dimensions that if those are the same, every batter's facing the same thing, every batter's facing the same problem, it's just a different view.
You ever heard of the term the year of the pitcher? You ever heard that term? 1968. That was the year that Bob Gibson, he had a 1.12 ERA. Do you know what they did following 1968? They lowered the mound from 15 inches to the current 10 inches. They lopped off a third of the height of the pitcher's mound. So they felt like the pitchers had too much of an advantage. And, and sure enough, that year, I think there was only one guy in all of Major League Baseball to hit over 300.
Wow.
And then 69 and on, they want, what do they say? chicks dig the long ball. They want offense.
Yeah.
Baseball wants offense. But so that's what happened back in the day. I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and take our first break. When we come back, we're going to be talking with Scott Howard, the voice of your Georgia Bulldogs, by the way. So anyway, we're excited about having him on when we come back.
Yeah, before we go to break, ESPN Cleveland 101.3 app. The exclusive home of ESPN Radio in Cleveland and Chattanooga is the ESPN Cleveland 101.3. It's never been easier to listen. Download the free ESPN Cleveland 101.3 app from our website, ESPNCleveland1013.com.
The Drive will be back after a quick timeout. Stay tuned for more nonstop sports talk on The Drive, presented by Hardee's.
Hardee's is hiring. Join the Star Team. Flexible scheduling, daily pay, free meals, 20% family discount, plus paid vacation for part-time and full-time employees. Apply in-store or online at hardees.com today.
Hip or knee pain holding you back? There's a new reason to feel hopeful. Dr. Andrew Carlone is now part of the team at Center for Sports Medicine and Orthopedics in Cleveland. He brings advanced training in total hip and knee replacement, including minimally invasive techniques that get you back on your feet faster. Let Cleveland's orthopedic experts help you live your best life. Call 423-624-2696 or go to sportmed.com to book your visit now.
For a quarter of a century, Mix 1041 has been taking you out to the ball game.
Swanson to first. The Browns are world champions.
Since 2000, Mix 1041 has been the home of the Atlanta Braves, and we're celebrating by giving away tickets to Atlanta Braves games all summer long. Listen for your chance to call or text to qualify. You can also register at the Mix socials on Facebook and Instagram. Braves 25 is presented by Cleveland Ford. Honest people, honest deals. ESPN Cleveland 1013 is powered by Duracell. Listen to the Alon Exchange, hosted by financial professionals Jay and Brittany Hagee, owners of Alon Planning Partners. Each week they discuss all things financial and answer your questions about investing, preparing for retirement, paying down debt, and more. The Alon Exchange, Saturdays at 7 a.m. on ESPN Cleveland 1013.
Need a new shop, garage, or other unique space? Explore post-frame building kits from Best Buy Metals. Best Buy Metals kits utilize steel trusses for the ultimate in strength and durability. When you need it to last, call Best Buy Metals. Stop by or visit bestbuymetalroof.com for your custom structure.
Welcome back to The Drive, presented by Hardee's. Join the conversation. Text 423-749-1013. You can also listen anywhere on our website, ESPNCleveland1013.com.
Okay, Duracell in Cleveland is now hiring mechanical skilled technicians $22 to $27 per hour. Excellent benefits beginning day one. Medical, dental, and vision insurance, paid vacation, holiday pay, 401k, tuition reimbursement, and more. Apply now at Duracell.com. That's Duracell.com. And we're so pleased to have Scott Howard, the voice of the Georgia Bulldogs. Of course, you can listen to every game here on ESPN in Cleveland. We carry Georgia football all season long. And by the way, congratulations, Scott, for being inducted into the Friends of Georgia Radio Hall of Fame class of 2025.
Hey, well, thank you very much. That was quite a surprise, and looking forward to that. The ceremony is going to be in August in north of Atlanta, and it'll be a great time. So that was very exciting and very humbling news a couple of weeks ago.
Absolutely, man. So that's awesome news there. Hey, now tell our listeners, Scott, your journey and how you became the voice of the Georgia Bulldogs. Start from how you got into this crazy business and where you are right now.
Oh, my goodness. Let's go back a little ways then. the way I got into radio is as a kid I had a love for radio. I lived in Nashville for 11 years as a young child until I was about 11 years old, and then we moved back to Georgia. And just as a kid, I listened to the radio all the time, was always around music, and wanted to be a disc jockey. And I wanted to be that guy in the box. I wanted to be that guy in the box talking to me, playing music, playing records. And I had a love for that, and I had a love for sports, and was eventually was able to combine the two into a career. But as I got older and made my college choice, went to the University of Georgia, decided on broadcasting as a major. And at the time, it was Radio TV Film was the name of the journalism segment in the Grady School at UGA. So you learned a little bit about each of those mediums, and my emphasis was going to be in radio. And after college, it was really kind of hard to get a job that paid enough. I may, if that Duracell job that you were talking about a few minutes ago had been offered, I would have jumped on that in a heartbeat. My goodness, that sounds great. But at the time, it was, it was like rubbing two sticks together to try to make ends meet. I mean, there just wasn't any offerings out there. There were a lot of sales jobs that I interviewed for, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be a broadcaster. I wanted to be on the air. So kind of held out until the opportunity came. Small radio station in Middle Georgia had reached out to me through the university, job placement, made me an offer, wanted me to come down for an interview. I was working at Delta Airlines at the time, and that's not what I wanted to do for a career. I was kind of part-time there. So I took the radio job in Middle Georgia. It wasn't a good situation, but it led to a better job about 2 or 3 weeks later. The first job was kind of laughable, the way stuff happened, and I was so crestfallen after that. I was like, is this the beginning and the end of my radio career? It lasted about 4 weeks at that first job. Just not a good situation at all with some of the other people and the owner, but it did lead to another really good situation and helped me build a great foundation at another job. I was on the air. I was a DJ. I was the sports director, so I got to do a lot of high school sports, a little bit of college sports in a small town in Georgia, and after about 3 years there, I wanted to move to a different market, something that would offer a little bit more from a sports standpoint, and timing was right. I got a job in Athens, and eventually I met the right people and worked for the stations that were the flagship stations of Georgia sports at the time, and kind of got my foot in the door there, and that's how it worked out. It was, being in the right place at the right time, and having a background, enough of a background for them to give me an opportunity to do that. And I got to work alongside Larry Munson starting in 1993 on the Bulldog Radio Network, and did that for 15 years until Larry retired. And in the meantime, we were doing basketball together, and I'd started doing basketball play-by-play. And then in 2007, Larry did not travel. He didn't do road games that year, so Eric Zier and I formed a new team, and we were the road radio team, and Larry and I still did the home games. And then in 2008, he retired permanently, and we were named as the replacements, I guess, and we've been doing Georgia football ever since. So that's kind of the road and the path there. A lot of people helped me along the way, and and it's been a great career so far.
Now, Scott, growing up, who were some of your favorite play-by-play announcers? And it can be either radio or TV.
Well, as a young kid, probably under 12, I didn't know one from the other. I just heard people on the radio. I didn't know their names, or I just heard voices, and it was probably not till I got into my teens that I actually, wanted to know who that was that I was listening to. But obviously on television, if you watch college football, it was Keith Jackson. So that was about the only voice you heard.
Right.
I didn't know all the color guys that worked with him, but I just knew Keith Jackson was the voice of college football. throughout my youth, and then in radio, I mean, it just, it was Munson as I got older, and we were living in Florida at the time, and it was tough to find Larry on the radio in Florida to be able to listen to him. Obviously, that's pre all the technology that we have today, and so it was difficult to find that opportunity. But when we lived in Nashville, I'd discovered Larry and his TV shows that he was doing. He used to do an outdoor TV show, like a lot of fishing with country music stars in Nashville, and that was on like Saturday afternoons, I think, was the time slot for it. So I would see that on television. And, earlier than that, he was doing Vanderbilt sports. So probably as a real small kid, we may have heard him on the radio at Vanderbilt before he took the Georgia job in 1966. But, that was kind of it. It was kind of the local people that influenced my radio career. I may not even know their names, but like I said, I wanted to be the guy in the box on the radio, talking to the listeners and playing music, and then eventually, delivering a sports broadcast.
We're talking to Scott Howard, the voice of Georgia football here on ESPN Cleveland. Let me ask you something, Scott. Now, I've done some high school football, and I actually did this, and I don't know if you do this, but we used to have like an egg timer, and when that egg timer would go, the sand had reached the bottom, we'd always give the score update. And the reason we did that, because it was for folks who may have just tuned in. Do you keep that in the back of your mind that maybe someone just tuned in and you kind of give them an update or a score update?
Yes, constantly. I mean, that's sports broadcasting 101 right there. You have to do that. You have to constantly reset the situation, give the score, the time, the down, and the distance. I don't think you can do that too much. And I don't. I've known some people that have a little timer, or they have a producer that constantly reminds them when to do it. It's just in my head. I mean, I've been doing this so long. It's just in my head when I don't have anything else to say, or you're kind of in a dead period as far as the action is concerned. You can always do that. You can always reset for new listeners who are in and out constantly throughout your broadcast. So yes, you constantly have to do that. It drives me insane when I turn on the radio. I say, hey, I'm jumping in the car. I'm going to the grocery store. It might be a 10-minute drive, and I can leave my house and get to the grocery store, and I still don't know the score. I don't know what's going on in the game. It drives me crazy. It's like I'm yelling at the radio. Give me the score. Just tell me who's winning, man.
I'm the same, Scott. I'm the same.
If you're in that business, I mean, you got to do that. And Bob Kessling at Tennessee told me when I first got the Georgia job, he just jokingly, because I'd been doing basketball for a long time at that point, but had started doing football play-by-play after moving over from the color spot with Larry. He goes, two things. Well, he said three things you got to know to do this right. He said, get the commercials in. That's number one.
Yep.
Number two, get the score right. And number three was just have fun. And those three things, if you do them, they tend to work.
Do you have a personal favorite game since you've been the play-by-play announcer for Georgia football? Do you have a favorite game out there that kind of stands out?
Yeah, probably the favorite game. People have asked me, what favorite calls and all that stuff. I don't really have a favorite call. I have favorite moments, and I guess that would apply to your question as far as a favorite game. But obviously, most recently, the two national championship games that Georgia has been in and won against Alabama and after the 21 season, and then TCU in the 22 season. Vastly different games, but equally enjoyable just for the outcome and working with the guys that we work with on the crew. It's a good crew that we've put together, and we have a lot of fun. And we get the commercials in, and we get the score right, so those are nice. But, that Rose Bowl game back in during the 17th season out in Pasadena against Oklahoma was a great moment just for the setting, the venue. Georgia historically doesn't play in the Rose Bowl game. They hadn't been there since the 40s before they made that appearance then, and that was a crazy game. They go to overtime, and Georgia wins it to go to the national championship. a walk-off, so to speak, with Sony Michel scoring the touchdown. But those are the moments, I guess, in the games most recently, anyway, that come to mind. And when I was working with Munson, the Tennessee Hobnail boot game in 2001 was a great moment, and just kind of sit back and listen to Larry kind of wax poetic after the game or after the play. The play call was kind of surprising to him, but it was all the stuff after the call and his description of that in that moment and the emotion that really struck a chord with me. And, all Georgia fans kind of remember that from here on out.
All of the Tennessee fans listening to you right now just drove their car on into a ditch hearing that Hobnail.
Well, they
boot
had their
thing.
moment, too. They had their moment in Kirby's first year when they came to Athens and had a walk-off win with Josh Dobbs.
That's true. That's true.
It's kind of even on that front.
That's true. Now, you talked about doing the game at the Rose Bowl. Do you have a favorite visiting stadium or press box?
I don't know. I mean, most places that we visit, certainly in the SEC, have upgraded, and they're all pretty good now. I mean, they're all, nice, clean spaces. There's a couple of places where the angle and the sight lines are not good, and they're not really conducive to a good radio broadcast. Auburn is not a good. The booth is great. The booth is newer. It's nice, plenty of space. But, they've positioned their radio in the end zone.
Oh, I know.
And it's hard to call a football game when you're looking at that vantage point.
Yeah, and I know what they're doing, Scott. They're putting these luxury boxes at the 50 for the high-end donors. I mean, that's just reality.
That's correct. Yeah, there's money to be made there. And even at Georgia, I mean, we moved out of our traditional original press box a couple of seasons ago. Now, we're not in the end zone, but we're deep down the sideline, and we're high above the field now in the west, kind of the west end of the field, close to the bridge. The new press box is really nice, but it's a different angle, and it just takes a little work to get used to calling it from that angle. You get used to something in your home stadium, and then it changes. But we adapt, and you kind of got to work with what you're dealt with, and we experience that every time we go on the road, and certainly basketball is going to be more and more like that now. I'm hearing a lot of rumblings of the basketball seating on the floor is as valuable, it would seem, as the box seating is in all the big stadiums. So a lot of people that work on the floor for a basketball game are being moved to another area, and that's going to affect some radio. Hopefully not at home. I think we'll still be on the floor in Athens at Stegman. But, we go to some other schools, and we might be up in the mezzanine level, or we might be up, concession stand level and have a higher view. Just as long as we're on the side, as long as you can see the development of the game, I mean, you can still get it done and deliver it to your listeners.
Talking to Scott Howard, the voice of Georgia football, that you can hear each Saturday on ESPN Cleveland. Now, Scott, are you an 8-conference game guy or a 9-conference game guy?
Well, if I had to make that decision, and I don't, I would probably pull for the 9-conference games to just kind of thicken up the schedule a little bit. Coaches, I don't know, they might be split on that. It's like, man, in the SEC, 8 is definitely enough. But there's a push for 9 because of other conferences playing that many in their league. I think the fans, those are the games the fans want to see. They want to see the really tough competition. Excuse me. So, if you add another conference game, that's really going to strengthen up the schedule. Certainly in the SEC, it might take away some of those early in the season big matchups that you have. I don't know. I don't know how that would affect that, but teams still have to fill out their home schedule, and Georgia is a little bit of an oddity in that it plays a neutral site game every year with Florida, so it alters how many home games you have on a yearly basis, and you got to fill the schedule. Like with this year, Georgia's got Marshall, and Austin Peay coming in the first two games of the year as a couple of their non-conferences. And then later in the year, we finish with Charlotte and Georgia Tech. Now, I'm sure if you asked fans, it's like, who would you rather see? Georgia play Charlotte, Austin Peay, and Marshall, or would you rather have another conference game and, throw in a Clemson and a neutral site game early in the year, something like that? They're obviously going to pick those type games. But I think that's where we're headed, Jim, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree.
I think eventually we're going to get to 9 games in the SEC.
You mentioned the Florida series, and this is my last question for you, Scott. Now, back in 1994, 1995, when the stadium in Jacksonville was being renovated, they played those Georgia-Florida games in Gainesville and in Athens. Now, I know the stadium there in Jacksonville is going to be pretty much redone again, and in 2026 and 2027, they're moving the games to Atlanta and then Tampa. Why do you think they decided to do it in 2 neutral sites instead of going back on campus for those 2 years?
Probably, probably a couple of reasons, and I'm just guessing here because I haven't been in on those meetings or that decision-making process. But number one, I would say for money, and the sports organizations in those cities that wanted that game at least for 1 year. It's a lot of money. There's a lot of money involved. The schools are being paid handsomely for a trip to Atlanta and for a trip to Tampa when they're not playing in Jacksonville. So, I mean, that's huge. And, whether you like it or not, money is the driving engine of this whole thing now, especially with adding NIL to the mix and paying the players. I mean, that money, that kind of pseudo cap of $20.5 million that teams have to pay their athletes now has to come from somewhere. So I would think that's the driving force right now. And it may be, between these two schools, between Georgia and Florida, it was a situation. It's like, I don't know if we want to give fans a taste of that home and home again, because there might be a louder screaming for it after the fact. So, I don't know if that was in the mix or not, but I think it was just a money situation. There were probably 2 really good offers on the table, one from Atlanta, one from Tampa. They were looking at stadium facilities and hotels. I mean, it was like a bowl game. When that game moves out, it's like a bowl game. You got to have it's like a huge football convention coming into your town. So you got to have the hotel space, hotel restaurants. You got to have a place for 70, 80,000 people to come in to watch that game, and even more around the game. As we know in Jacksonville, there's a lot more people in town for that game than are in the stadium. So I think they've done the best they could with that, finding 2 locations for that game while this Jacksonville stadium's being renovated again. And hopefully it's going to be 2 Georgia wins over the next couple of years.
Scott, we sure appreciate your time here on ESPN in Cleveland, and you have a good rest of the day, man.
Jim, thanks so much, and glad to have you guys as an affiliate, and hope you listen and enjoy all season long, and go Dogs.
All right. Scott Howard, the voice of University of Georgia football. You're listening to ESPN Cleveland.